Okay, and we're back. It's COMP123. It's week 9, lesson 9, part 1. And we left off last week talking about files and I/O, input output, which you need for your assignment number 5, right? Remember, you got 2 assignments last week. Number 4, which is your array assignment, which is a makeup assignment, which is an add-on, an optional assignment that you can do if you wish. And assignment number 5, which is really your assignment. That's your real assignment for this one, right? And because the array assignment, actually, I just mentioned if you guys wanted to come to my class, my COMP100 class, which is from 6:30 to 10:30 on Wednesdays, I give them the same exact assignment. So their assignment number 4 is their assignment number 4, right? And the thing with it is, they learn arrays. That's when you learn arrays in COMP100, right? But I'm just giving you another opportunity to do it again, right? Because I want you guys to be experts. So, but last week we talked about assignment number 4 or 5. It's really, it should have been 4 for you, but it ends up being 5 because it's I/O. And let's just go over that one piece again, because I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And when I pull up my fancy dancy Word for Mac, let's take a look at this. This is a new download. It's a they've put it together a preview for Mac 2016, Word 2016 for Mac, and it's the new Mac Office 2016, right? So it comes with the new, just for people who are Mac people. If you're a Mac person and you want to download Office 2016, it's a free download for now. And they're going to be middle of 2015. They're going to be selling it alongside with Office 365. Okay, enough of that. So let's. I don't work for Microsoft, I swear. Anyways, so this is week 10, which is next week. And again, we talked about it last week. There's a couple piece parts to it, but there's only one small program to write, not 2. And the one you're going to write is it has to do with. You're going to write some sample student data. You're going to create the file, this file here, which reads, and you're going to make this file ahead of time. I'm not going to ask you to create it in the program, okay? You just have to create this file and read from the file. This is your simple I/O we're going to do. And when you read from the file, you get all this information. You take this information into your array, okay? So you have to know arrays because each of these lines could be a string that you're going to take into your array. Nice and simple. That's what we're doing here. And again, if you notice what it says here, allow the user to load the grade file, display its contents in the console through the use of a menu, right? So again, 1, display grades, 2, exit. A menu again, right? Because I'm making you do these menus over and over again. So you guys become menu experts by the time we're done, right? And by the way, once we finish this section, I'm going to try and work more towards UI. So that's user interfaces with Windows forms. We're going to try and start that again, I think it's probably going to be tomorrow, right? So we're going to talk about that. And if it's not tomorrow, it'll be next week for sure. Because what I want to talk about is at least the basics for you getting to go with Windows forms. Because in programming 3, you use them more extensively, right? So we'll talk about basic Windows forms. And I might give you a bigger assignment as opposed to the ones that you've been getting so far. We'll see how it goes. Right? I'll gauge it according to how you guys are responding. Okay. Anyway, so we've got this, this stuff here, display grades and so on. And then when the display grades option is selected, you ask for the user for the name of the file to load and say file to load. So almost like a submenu. And then your code should include exception handling, because we're covering exception handling with this one, to ensure that if a grade file doesn't exist, right, then the error no such file is output, even though the file does exist, because you will make a file, right? I'm going to test for this function. I'm going to kind of load up any file. I'm going to say, make a gobbledygook name for a file, right? And it's not going to exist, right? So what's going to happen if I look for a file that doesn't exist? Your exception handling should cover that, right? In fact, exception handling for you now should be part of what you do when you code. So if the user enters something, and if he enters the wrong information, you should be able to handle that, right? With basic exception handling. For the exam, I'm not going to test you on custom exceptions. So you're not going to have to make your own. All I care about is at least the catch-all exception, right? Which is the exception keyword, right? We talked about last week. When the grade file is loaded, the entry should be displayed in the following format: last name, first name, and blah, blah, blah. And here is the sample data. And so basically, you'd have to make a longer file maybe what you want to do is make this like 10 names so I have enough sample data. Or you could just use this. I'm good. If you can load this up in your file from a file and it looks like this, right, and it comes out, I'm good, right? I'm not asking you to use binary files, and I won't ask you to use binary files on the exam. I'll mention binary files. We'll talk about that today a little bit, right? But I don't expect you to know or remember how to do binary files in programming too, right? There's different kinds of file formats, binary files and text files. Text files are enough, okay? And we'll talk about that today. So that's really your assignment 5 in a nutshell, right? Again, one piece to note, and I know you guys asked me about this last week, is this assignment is weighted 5%, right? And there is no link to GitHub. This is one of the assignments I didn't ask for GitHub because I've got some other piece parts to it. Like, for example, this assignment's asking for a couple things, exception handling and file input and output, and that should be enough for this assignment for you guys. Okay, if I give you too much more, then you know, it's going to be too big. In fact, if anything, your arrays assignment is bigger, right? Okay, so that's it. Just a recap of what we did last week with the assignment number 5, which is due next week. Both of the assignments are due next week, okay, on the Friday. And if you have any questions or concerns about these assignments, please see me or make an arrangement to come or whatever. Send me some emails. I'll see what I can do. I'll try and answer them in a fairly responsive order. Okay, that's that piece. Let's go over to Visual Studio now and open up last week's project. So again, if we go to GitHub, and I'm going to go to my GitHub just to see which one we did last week. If I go to my repositories, this is the way you would look at it. And if I kind of go COMP308, then, you know, sorry, COMP123, my head is COMP308 today. I have a lesson 8 part 2, which is where we're going to be ending off. And if you notice, this is where we're actually doing things like, we're just going to go into it here. I have a text file, you know, that says this is some sample text, right? And I have a, here I am, I have a program file. There's a program, and all I did was make, this is a great example of a menu that we put together last week, right? Here's a menu. And also a check file method, a couple of things we looked at last week up online, right? I also created list folder, which lists the folders, a couple of listings, and we also have our utility method called wait for key, right? Okay, I'm going to use this as a jump off point, but I'm going to make a new, I'm going to keep this open for a second, and then I'm going to make a new repository, right? So let's go into Visual Studio and start a new project. I'm just going to go File, Close Solution, right? And what I want to do with this one is we're going to go File, New, and Project. And we're going to go with a C# project that's going to be a console application again. We're going to call this COMP123, not 308, COMP123, Lesson 9, Part 1. We'll try and do Part 1 today and Part 2 tomorrow. So we'll use one file. Let's see how it goes. Okay, here we go. And now we have our typical project start. I'm going to make this a little bigger for us to see it. And you know what? It's a pain in the ass that I got to keep on keeping on with this, you know, wait for key thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste it for now. Hopefully by tomorrow, what I'll try and do is show you how to use custom snippets, right? But for now, I just want to grab this wait for key. And what I am asking you to do, even though if I don't ask you to do things in your assignments, I notice that some of you don't include something like this in your assignments and they just kind of appear and disappear. I'd like you to include a wait for key, even if you didn't. If you didn't up till now, I'm not docking you for it. So you're not losing marks for it, but I'd like you to include something like this where you're waiting for the key to the console to go, you know, so I can see your output. All right, a little bit easier. Yeah. Okay, no, you're just scratching your head. Okay, and let's include this static function here outside of the main. I'm just going to kind of copy and paste. This is wait for key. I don't have to use this. It's the same thing over and over again. I'm killing myself with this wait for key method, right? And I'm going to create a new custom or new repository. Let's do that here at GitHub. We can do this new one that kind of ties into what we're doing today again. So we'll do COMP123, and it's lesson 9, part 1. Okay, there's COMP123. I'll create my repository. I'll copy the Git location, go back into Visual Studio, and I'll go into Team Explorer, Home, Changes, I'll say created base VS C# project, like I always do. By now you guys should be sick of this. And I'm going to say commit, which is going to make me save. And of course I'm going to go home and unsync commits and Control V. Now, as long as the internet's working, we're good. Okay, so we're kind of connected. You got my GitHub stuff, and we're starting off with this. Okay, that's the first thing. Let's go back into the presentation pieces that we looked at last week and kind of go over the stuff that we already looked at as a review a little bit. So we did exception handling and file I/O. Exception handling was the first piece, and we did just, remember when we did exception handling, we used a series of try-catch blocks, right? And the try-catch block stuff, by the way, these are different kinds of exceptions we talked about last week, right? And the different kinds of exceptions that we're looking for are right here in your PowerPoint presentation online, right? Like, so for example, there's system argument exception. There's different ones, but the one I care about for you guys is just called exception, which we'll talk about in a second. So if you remember, we did, this is a typical example of an input. And then last week what we did was we talked about how to use a try-catch block like this kind of format. And this try-catch block, you surround your input with the try-catch block, and we use this standard catch-all exception to catch all exceptions and kind of output a message. Hey, instead of it, so that way your program won't crash, as opposed to how it was working before. Okay, so this is what we did with, exception handling, very, very simple. And then we were right into file I/O. We didn't cover the whole thing yet because we just didn't get around to it. So, because there's a lot of piece parts to it, right? So I think we covered up to, it was a 13 or 15. Let's just go through it. And I think the most important pieces to it that's new. Sorry, new version of Microsoft PowerPoint. Ooh, I wonder what you guys are going to see on the video. That's not what I want. So let's go back. Woo, okay. That's not what I wanted at all. I wonder how that's going to look in the video. Probably you're going to see both splits, which is weird because I see a split screen. You guys didn't see a split screen. You see the screen up here. So this will have to do for now. That's what happens when you upgrade. So really, we talked about data organization, how we can look to see, we look in a directory, and that's what we built last week's update. When we're actually looking at, there's different ways of organizing data. So far we've been looking at text files, because text files, all we're doing is we're opening up files. Well, you can actually look at both file and directory classes. That's the two things we were doing last week. Let me go back to show you what I'm talking about. To recap, and here we are with GitHub. And if you remember, this is last week's code, right? And we have in our main, here's our main, going up here. All we have in our main is this main menu, right? If you remember how we did that. And in main menu, the main menu is actually the while loop that you need for your assignment number 4 and 5, right? And inside the while loop, you have a try-catch block. And the try-catch block, what it does is it kind of looks at your console input and makes sure that you don't have an error. And again, I use this standard exception class with an error that I'm not even using, right? And then what I'm doing is I'm looking at a switch statement here that basically switches between I check my file or I can list my folder. Remember I was doing that last week? And that's where I got to. And then of course this is my check file method. I broke it out into different methods, right? My check file method, what it does is it opens up, it says the file exists, and then here are the stats, right? If the file exists. Else, file doesn't exist, right? And then I did my folder method, my list folder method, and what it does is it looks to see if the folder exists, and if it does, what does it contain, right? And I break it down between other folders and other files. So that's this class. And then of course I have my wait for key. So that's what this thing does. The only thing this thing does really is a big menu, and it looks at files and folders. That's all we did last week. Okay. I didn't really do create a file. We didn't cover create a file. We didn't cover deletion of a file. We did check the exists, if exists. The file exists, we're good. We can also check for get creation time and get last access time. We did all this stuff with directories and with files. These ones we can do, right? And what I did was we kind of went through this example, right, where we actually used this file.getCreationTime. We used the getCreation method of the file class. And what we did was we created a file. We said if file exists, we use the static file class with the exist method to check the file name that you put in there. So does my file exist? And remember, the file name, when you check, has to have the full path, right? Full file path. And we had a problem reading. We don't know how to find our path for our folder yet. Right? We haven't covered that. So we're going to try and cover that today. Okay, so again, some basic file functionality. And then again, this would be a list of files that we use the directory. This is almost exactly what I did for the directory listing here in your book. So figure 14.3, right? Okay, so now we're into this file organization. And again, there's two types of files. We're still looking at text files, okay? We haven't got into how data storage, how data is stored in binary file format. We haven't gotten to that yet. And again, from a testing perspective, I'm not going to test you. I'm not going to test you on binary files. I'm going to talk about it. You're going to see them, but I'm not going to test you on it because it's just an advanced topic. There's only so much we can do in this course, and then hopefully next course in Programming 3, they'll talk about it a little bit more. By the way, I've okayed this with Professor Narendra. He's good with it, so we're on the same track in terms of what's for Programming 3. And hopefully when you get to Programming 3, you're not going to say, damn that, Tom, you didn't teach us file I/O with binary file formats, right? Hopefully you won't say that. If you do, you do. Okay, of course, then here we go. We've got this, the files then are broken down into these different structure. So if you look back to the hierarchy, you have your file, okay? And inside your file, you have a record. And inside each record, you have a field. Fields would be your employee number or your last name or your salary, right? And inside the field, you have characters, right? These are all nodes within the whole file hierarchy, if you will, okay? It's important to know this because this is how files work, right? So again, you have fields, a group of a character or group of characters that has some kind of meaning. Like, for example, my name. It's a field. A record is a bunch of fields, so a row. So a row of fields, if we go back to that, your assignment 5, right? Let's go back to assignment 5 one second. Hopefully it won't load forever. There we go. This right here in assignment 5 would be a row of fields. You have Jones, Bob, Introduction to Computer Science, A-, all those things might be considered fields, but you have all this whole row would be your record, okay? Just like you do in database. So if you do database, each row is a record, right? Each column is a field. So each column would be your different variables and so on, right? Okay. And again, when we talk about data files, they consist of related records. So a bunch of records that mean something to each other. They don't necessarily have to be a database, but they have to have some kind of relation, typically, right? And again, each record in the file is read in order based on its relative position. So for example, I read from the top down. That's typically what we do. We don't read from the bottom up. Typically, we don't read files like that, right? Okay, slowly, right? So again, we open a file, we create an object, and we associate a file stream. And this is where things get a little tricky. So far, all we've done is we've looked to see if the file exists. We haven't actually read the file in, right? We haven't done that yet. And this is when we're going to do that. Okay, here's what the stream looks like. We talked about this briefly last time, where you have, here's my application, and we have this input, which is the read stream, and we have the output, which is the write stream. Read stream, write stream. Okay, pretty simple. High level, I know. And of course, there's these other default stream objects in C# which we don't really use. These are just inputs for the keyboard and so on in the screen. What we want to use is this stream reader and stream writer. And these are specifically for text files. So they read stream reader. We create an object of stream reader so we can read a text file, and we use the stream writer to write the text file, right? And we can also use this thing called Filestream for both input and output to a file. So we have both these three. And all these three objects here is what we're going to be using over the next little while. Let's take a look. Okay, so with our file stream, whatever the file stream is, and these are all related file stream, which is stream reader or stream writer. Can read gets a value indicating whether the current file stream supports reading. We can check. Can seek, and so on. I'm not going to read all these, but these are all the different methods, right, to check to see if the name of the file, the length of the file stream, and all that kind of stuff you can get through these methods. And the same goes with reading, opening, creating, deleting, all that kind of stuff we can do here as well. We can say file stream, whatever the file stream is, and we can change modes, right? And we can look at appending. If I use the append mode for the file stream, then I'm adding data to the file. If I create the file, then I create a new file, and if I use the create mode again, this is bad, it'll overwrite the old file. So be careful, right? If you use create, it's like it'll wipe out the old file. Then there's open and create, and so on. There's different methods we can use for file methodology, right? So we're going to refer back to these in a bit. Let's take a look. Of course, there's also, from a read perspective, there's read, which can read, data can be read from the file. Read, write, these are different options from a file access perspective. You can read and write is only read only, or write only, which is kind of weird. Typically, we don't have a write only, right? Unless maybe we're creating data logs, but then you'd want to read them. Right? So it's very rare that we have a write. We do have lots of read-only stuff and read-write, but rare that we have writes. Okay, and we can't read the files that we've written. Why would we need that, right? It's kind of weird. Okay, so, and here's an example of streams. So first we do this. Let's take a look. File stream is, we kind of mentioned this thing as the class that we instantiate. So we say file stream. Here's our file stream object called outFile. And then we create a new with a new keyword. We're using constructor notation here to create a new file stream. And inside the new file streams have several different constructor signatures, right? And this one in particular takes string, the file mode, are we creating or reading or writing, and my file access. This is write only, which is the same thing I just told you. It's kind of weird, right? Why are we doing this? So we create this out file, right? Okay, well that's a good reason why, because it's only an output file. And then what we're doing is we're saying, hey, console.write, enter some text. The string, we create a text object, which is of type string, which we take the console input and put it into this text object. And then what we're doing is we're taking this writer, right, which is a stream writer. See here we have a file stream. So we open up the file stream. Stream writer, we create a stream writer object called writer. So we have these three objects we have to use, right? And then what we do is we send it out, this out file, we use this to send out to the file. So when we write the file out. And then we use this write line method of the stream writer object to create the file. And then we have to close both. We have to close our writer, which is our stream writer, and we have to close our file, the file stream itself. Think about the file stream as this big superhighway, right? I always look at it like that. Like imagine like this, I don't know, think about a highway like Highway 401. It's a big file, right? Big file stream. And let's suppose there's two sides of the lane, right? You have eastbound and westbound traffic, right? Let's say eastbound traffic is the write. We're writing eastbound, and we're reading westbound, okay? Let's just say, right? Well, that's what our file stream allows us to do. We can do both read and write operations as long as we open up the superhighway called file stream, okay? And then stream writer, our stream writer object is only for writing, so it can only travel eastbound on the writing stream, right? And our stream reader object only works on the other stream, on the read stream, right? We have both those streams, and you have to have all three together in order for us to read, write, and so on. Here's the challenge. If we open a file here, we're doing it in one method, this main method here, right? And we're outputting, we're saying writer.close and outfile.close. And we need to, when we open up a file, we have to close up the file. Well, here's a problem. What if we try to open a file that's already been opened, right? We're going to get an error. And this is where we have to wrap our stuff in try-catch blocks. So you're going to see this as a problem coming up. I'm just telling you ahead of time. Oh, hey, one more thing. Remember, whenever we do any kind of file I/O, we need to use this using system.io statement up here, or else you can never do file I/O you won't be able to access those classes. Remember what using meant? That was another recap from last week. Using is like an import statement that imports all these libraries and classes into our project. So you can't use file input and output. These streams, Filestream, will not appear. Neither will streamwriter or all the other stuff we did last week. It won't appear here unless you have this system.io, this using system.io statement inside your code. Okay. So this is the output. So someone writes, say, some text, and then we enter some text, and then, you know, it kind of outputs to the file. Cool, cool. I'm going to go one step further before we start doing an example, right? So again, it says writing and reading a sequential access file. So there's two different access files. One, that's just a text file which we're writing to, and the other one, that's a sequential file, which is a little bit different, right? And again, it talks about this delimiter character that we're going to need. We're going to get back to this in a second. And usually it's some kind of delimiter. Sometimes we have a comma separated field. Sometimes we use like a Excel CSV file, comma separated value file, or it could be separated by spaces, right? Whatever you do, typically we have some kind of delimiter or something that tells us that one record is finished and the other record is beginning, and something that tells us that one field is done, and now we're looking at the next field, okay? And typically, this is an example of, you know, an employee class, right? This is back to classes again, where we have employee number, and this is almost like a schema if you think about it, right? We have an employee number, a name, and a salary. Well, we want to be able to use this structure, right, to look at files and folders and so on. Let's take a look at this. So here's a more complete, you know, kind of a bigger example. All right, so we have a string, it's a constant, and we call this string a delimiter. We're using comma as the delimiter. Here we have a file name, employee data.txt. This is what the file name is called. And then our employee, we create a new employee emp object of the employee class. This class that we created, there's not much in this class. There's not even a constructor, right? And so we're creating this new employee, right? And then we're saying this, Filestream out file. We've created this new object again, just like we did last time. We have our file name, our file mode, which is a create, and a file access, which is a write only. Again, kind of weird, right? So we're only writing right now. We activate the stream writer by creating our object called writer. And then what we're doing is we're creating a new stream writer object by sending in the out file object that we get from Filestream. We're putting it there. We'll do this in a second. And then what we're doing is we're saying, hey, enter your employee number, right? Plus end. It says, take a look at this end. End is 999. What's this 999? Constant. So we got this end, constant's an integer, and it says plus 999 to quit, right? Or 999. That's what we're entering in there, to quit. Okay, so we're listening for 999 to quit. It's the while loop. And while the employee number is not equal to 999, it keeps entering employee numbers. That's all it does, right? Forever and ever. Almost like a little menu, right? But a menu where always it listens for 999. Okay, that's kind of weird, but it's okay. It works. And then what we're doing is we're saying the employee number, convert to int32 from our console. We should really wrap that with a try catch, right? We don't want some weird console entry, right? And then what we're going to do is inside this while loop, we're going to say, while this is happening, it's not 999. Then we're going to say console.write, enter your last name. We're going to get our last name read in there for the name, right? And then we're going to do enter your salary. We're going to input the salary, right? So again, the class is just a container class that we're using, right? And then we're saying, hey, here's our write line. Here's our write line. And what we're going to do is you're going to use a writer write line to write the employee number with a delimiter, the employee name with a delimiter, the comma, and the employee salary, right? All on one line. And then we're going to say console.write, enter the next employee number, or 999 to quit, right? Which is kind of a weird way of doing your loop. But it works, okay? And that's all this thing does. So this, we actually inject the comma between each of the fields that you're asking. We're doing that ourselves. We're putting that comma in. And the reason why is because we want to be able later on to read that comma, right? To say, hey, this is one field. Comma tells us it's one field. Comma tells us this is second field and third field and so on. Yes?
So basically, this is writing a file called file name that using the writer class.
Well, the file name is going to be employee data.txt right here.
What's the file name? Is this writing a file?
Yes.
What's the file called?
Employee data.txt.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll do that in a second. We'll check this out. We'll try it out, right? We'll start from the beginning and we'll make it go, right? And we'll make it a very simple thing. So let's try doing it with no input. That's what we'll try. So we'll try making a file happen, no input from the user. We're just going to make our own file, right? We're going to try it so that we get input from the user, right? Enter your file, whatever. And then we'll see where that file pops up. Where the hell is this file going, by the way, right? You have to be able to read that file and find that file again, right? We told you I couldn't find that file last time when we were looking at it, right? This is a challenge, and this is part of what you need to do for your assignment 5, but I didn't ask you to do a file write. I asked you to do a file read, which is way harder, okay? So let's think about this as an example. Let's kind of create this over here together, all right? So I'm going to go back. I don't need this anymore for now. I'm going to kind of minimize it. I might use essences of this while loop here. I might use it again because I might need to make some kind of menu, so I'm leaving it up, okay? All right, so here I am, and I want to do system IO, so I need to use this using statement. This is the first thing I need to do. So take a look. It's like, well, using system, this is the first time we're doing this again, .io, right? I need to have this piece in here. So I need this, I'm going to put this in there, need this for any system input output. If you don't do this, right? If you don't do system.io, you got no access to system.io classes and methods. Okay, cool, I've done that now. Good. All right, now in my main, I want to call my wait for key. So here's my wait for key. I've already defined this because, you know, I've done that. Here we are. Here's my wait for key. And if I run this thing right now, all it'll do is kind of wait for a key to continue, right? Oh, hey, I don't want this too dark. Let's make it white again, just to set all that up for the first time. And we'll make this black, and we'll go to the font, and we'll make it a consoleless font with 20. Okay, there we go. So if you notice, it's just asking me for a key. This is where we start off. Okay, cool. So I need some kind of file stream that I need to open. We'll do the same thing. We'll call it Filestream. So I'm going to start off Filestream. And if you notice, as I type, if I've got the system.io, I've got access to the Filestream class. If I don't have the system.io, you will not see this Filestream. You'll get frustrated. You'll go, Tom, I can't see the Filestream class. Why? Because you haven't done this. This is number 1. This is almost like step 1. If you don't do this, you can't do this, right? Okay, now we create an object of the Filestream class called output. We know how to do, or out file. Let's call this out file, right? And our out file is of type new Filestream, right? Here's our Filestream. And if I open it, I got 15 different signatures for this Filestream. The most common is the one that's first, typically, and it tells you we have an input, we have some file access, and that kind of stuff. To follow the one we used to use before here in this example, which I want to stick with closer to the book, we need a file name, we need a file mode, and file access, right? And if you notice, file mode, file access, these are part of the Filestream class. They're actually static methods that we're going to be using, classes that are part of the Filestream namespace. Okay, so again, the first thing is I need the name of the file. So let's make a name of the file up here. I need that. And I'm going to call this name of the file, you know, file name. We'll just make it a variable. So we'll say it's a type string, right? We'll call it file name, right? And we'll make it, we'll kind of assign it for now. We'll say it's, you know, we'll call it test file .text because we need to kind of make a file type, right? Again, the ending for the file needs to be there, this .text, to tell it that it's what type of file we're going to put into the system. Although you can create any kind of file. Okay, so we need this. We need to put our file name in here. I'm not making it a constant for now, but bear with me. Okay, so here's our file name, right? And the next piece we need is some kind of, if you notice, from a file stream perspective, we need what mode we're in right now. We're in create mode, right? When we use create mode, we say file mode, right? File mode comes up, and we can use, there's many, this is just an enum that allows us to pick from these options: append, create, create new, open, just like we saw in the PowerPoint presentation. So we're just going to go into create mode. So file mode, create. So I'm going to kind of make this a little bigger for you guys. And I'll make the text just a little bit smaller. Well, a little bit smaller, I said. Right? And then we're going to do, file access. Here's our file access dot with a dot delimiter. What kind of access? Well, we're going to make it just a write to go with the example. So file access dot write. And if you notice, that's all we need for this out file. This is our out file or file name. We call this file name is the name that we're using. Out file is the object that we're making that's off of Filestream. Okay, that's all we're doing. Let's try this, just this, and nothing else, right? And let's do, after we do this file, we're not going to actually put anything into it. I'm going to do a file, an outfile.close. So outfile.close, right? So we open it up, and after we open it, we're closing it back up again. Close it, close it, close it up again, just like, in the cartoons. All right, and that's all we're doing. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to kind of run this thing, and then, okay, yeah, enter. And what happened? Where did this test file.txt go? Did we do a text file.txt? We did a creation, right? But we didn't go do anything here in our menu. Look, right? And we can kind of look and see any kind of hidden files. We can also refresh. Sometimes refreshing our stream helps us, but I don't see anything in here, guys. Like, I really don't. There's nothing in here. Did it write anything? No. Why? We have nothing in it. Right? We can't just create an empty file like that, typically. All right, this is part one. Didn't give us an error either, which is good. So we've done this piece up here, right? This piece right here. We didn't put together a stream writer, and I don't want to ask input from the user. All right, so here's the next piece. Stream writer is equal to new stream writer with that out file going out there. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So this is the next class we need to use. So stream, and again, this is not available unless you use your system.io. Stream writer, we're going to call this writer, right, is equal to new stream writer. That's using just a basic constructor notation. And we're going to send in what? Our out file, right? So here's our out file. So the stuff we just made here, we're going to put in here. Okay, now let's close this off. So I'm going to say, okay, find writer, because we're opening that afterwards. We close it up in the order that we open it. Right? So we open it, we open up another one, we close the one in the middle, and then we close the outer one. Okay, almost like nested loops. Writer.close. Okay, that's typically how we do it. First, we open up our outside one, the actual file stream. Then we open up our stream writer. Then we do something with it, and then we close everything off. All right. We're going to leave a bunch of space in between. Then in between, we do all our write operations, right? Okay, let's try this again. Let's see if we run it, what happens. Does it do anything? Boom. Okay, didn't do anything. I don't see any objects here. Didn't write anything. I don't know if it wrote anything, but it didn't give us any output anyway. And if it did, right, where would this write to anyway? It would write to here. Let me just do a refresh to see if I see anything. No. Let's look and see, did it write inside of our file somewhere? I'm mentioning this because, I don't want you to be confused. You have to understand what's going on here, and this is what confuses the crap out of students the most. Okay, so I don't see anything in my files. I see my program.cs. If I move up one, I don't see it in there. Let's move to GitHub where I have all my files. And do I have a see it in there? No, I don't see it there either. So it doesn't exist anywhere so far. How about my Tom Documents workspace, which is my typical workspace? No, it's not there. It's not on Tom. I don't see my text file.txt, so it's not anywhere. It doesn't exist. I didn't do anything. Why? Because I didn't put anything into it. Right? Can't do anything until we do some kind of writing. Right? I didn't do a writer.write. Okay, well let's do that. Let's just do a writer.write, right? Because that's the write line, and we're just going to input some data like hello world. Okay, so we're going to down in here before we close off stuff. We're going to say writer.writeLine, right? And we're going to say, here's what we're going to write: hello world, right? Because it's our first file writing. Okay. Any issues so far? Nice and easy, right? So our writer, we're using this writer object, which is just defined inside of our stream writer class to write the file. Then we're closing the file off. So this closes the actual file, right? This closes the stream, right? This is the file stream, right? This closes the stream, file stream. This writes to the file, right? Okay, we're not adding anything in there right now. We're just adding hello world. Okay, so if all goes well, theoretically, we should be able to write. Let's check it out, right? Run it, enter. Oh man, I don't see nothing. Where'd it go? How come it's not here? Where did I write this thing? Right? Wrote it somewhere, maybe, right? Well, let's search for it. Let's do some kind of search, you know, to find out where this thing is. So I'm going to kind of go here, and we call this thing testfile.txt, right? I want to search this PC for test file, right? Test file with a capital F dot text. Where is it? It's going to search. It's going to do its search in a second. So that's what I'm looking for, testfile.txt, right? Because that's what I'm looking for. And it's going to search through my entire PC to figure out where the hell it went. Did it go anywhere? Did it write anything? I don't even know. I'm just saying, I like your thinking, right? But I'm just trying to tell you, right, that you just gotta, you can't just do it right. Following the book is all fine and dandy and good and nice, right? But, you know, you gotta tell it where to go, right? Because right now, look, it's gone. Did you guys see anything in your files, right? So this is the thing, this is the challenge. The challenge is reading and writing isn't as easy as you think, right? Because the book tells you some stuff, it tells you basic operations, but it doesn't talk about pathing and all that kind of stuff as easily. So what if I declared a path, I wanted to write my file, and I want to append the path to my file name, because that's smart, right, to do. Okay, now remember, this may or may not work, and we may get an error, right? So we should wrap all this file operation stuff, we should, theoretically, within some kind of try-catch. The whole thing, the writing, the opening, the closing, all that stuff should be in a try-catch, because we want to be able to catch an error so it doesn't crash our code, right? And you know what, guys? I don't see that this thing is wrote a darn thing. My system can't find anything anywhere, right? Did yours? Maybe your system is faster than mine. You do a search on your system and find the file. Right now, she be lost, right? She's gone, right? I don't know where the file went. Did I even write anything? So I'm going to stop this. Going back to this example, here's the example, right? Here's my out file, my out file stream. Here's my writer. Here's my what I'm writing. I'm using this console.write, and I'm using this writer.write line to write my file, right? Who cares about the delimiters? I can't even find my file, and then I close everything off. Okay, so let's change our, just do a test here, and I'm going to change my file name with an absolute path. And by the way, tell me why this is bad, right? So I'm going to go C:\\, and I'm going to send it so that the file itself, C:\, it goes to there, C:\, right? So my main root folder, it's going to go there, right? Let's add that in, see if that works. Okay, right, start. Okay, oh, and that's what I was hoping for. It says illegal character, right? That's the exception thrown. And it's trying to find something because I put it into my file name and I put the C:\, right? How do I put a backslash inside my file? Wouldn't it be like this? Right? Is that the way? Let's try that. So that's the first problem we had. Let's rerun this thing. Okay. Hey, it ran. Okay, cool. Let's see if our file exists in my C folder. So I go C, it's almost full. I look down. I don't see my file anywhere. You guys see your file somewhere? Are you seeing that text file? I don't see it. Huh? You found it? Can you see colon backslash? Where is it? What? But I did. I went to my C drive. Where the hell is it? I'm jealous. How come it doesn't appear with me? Did I do something wrong? Boy. Sorry, I'm trying to be a cowboy. It's not working. I'm not a great actor. But I just don't know where it is. It's not here. Did you guys get it? Huh? Did someone find it? Oh, you found it. Did you do something different than me? Did you change the code somehow? Did you put in something else? Because I don't see the file anywhere. Right? There's no hello world. Huh? The what? Oh, a text file wouldn't be hidden, right? Test file.txt, that's going to be like, got to be somewhere, right? Okay, cool. Oh, this is bothering me now, right? Hey, what about if I was to go and put it in my users? Let's follow the path here. This is where, again, I'm going to get you guys to think of how this works. And it's not erroring out. It doesn't mean the error doesn't exist. Okay, so C, users, Tom. Why is this bad? Tom, I'm going to go to my desktop. And I'm going to give you this file afterwards. I'm going to see, hey, I'm going to put it on the desktop, right? And here, I'll copy the address as text. And I'm going to put this file address in here. Anyone have an idea why this is bad? Oh, wait, before the test file.txt, so before here. Paste. I need one of these here, and one of those there. Maybe another one over here. Anybody have an idea why this is really bad? Huh? It's from my PC, right? If I give you the file, you don't have a Tom user, right? Right? You don't have no Tom. You don't have a damn Tom user. It's not going to happen. You won't find my file anywhere. It'll write it into oblivion, right? Actually, it'll probably write into oblivion right here too. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's try this path out. In fact, if anything, just because, you know, I'm not happy with the fact that I'm using this path and the file name together, I'm going to make another string. I'm going to call this path name, right? Just because, you know, I think it's important for us to kind of separate the path and the file name. It's important because, you know, C users, not including test file, that should be my path, right? Maybe I'll add the 2 slashes there just because. And then this part here is my test file. Right, so here's my test file.txt. So now I'm going to take the path name and append it to my file name. So it'll be something like this. So path name plus file name, right, together. And then file mode create, file access write, so on. Cool. Let's see if it errors out. Boom. Okay, we're good. All right, it's going to go to desktop. Oh man, where's my file? Hey, here's my file. I found it. You guys didn't get that? Well, yours is not going to be called users Tom if you put that in, right? You got to put users your name, right? Whatever your name is, right? And let's take a look at this thing if I can see it. Right? Wait a minute. Oh, hey, hello world. Ah. Hello world? Bad. This is bad coding. Bad coding, sir. Right? Why? Because it's absolute pathing. It uses my path. C : users Tom. Desktop. Right? There is no C users : Tom in your thing. Right? It doesn't happen. Right? It's got to be something like, so we have to find some kind of relative path we're going to have to use. And there's another way to do that, and if it doesn't tell us by the end, we'll look it up. Okay? Sometimes you need to look at the API documentation or the documentation for C# to find your relative path. All right? And let's see if anyone's smart, right? I'll challenge you right now. We're sitting at 123, right? Find the way to use a relative path instead of my, and I want it to go into the path of my project path. That's where I want it to sit. I don't want this file to sit inside the zone somewhere and be lost. So find out how to do that. If you can do that while I'm working, let me know. I'll stop the class and we'll do what you told me to do. All right? Let me continue. Yes? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got all kinds. There's all kinds of reasons why we don't want to do this, right? So anyway, so this worked for me because I have access. Maybe you don't have access, you know, whatever. But this C:\users\tom\desktop. This is the path that goes to my desktop for me, right? But it doesn't go there for you, right? It can't ever get there for you because unless you have a user called Tom, it's not going to happen. Then you'd have to be in his desktop, right? That makes no sense. Okay, but now let's go further with the example. So now we know the file is going to be written there. Let's leave it there for now because we don't know how to do anything else, right? And like I told you before, we got that error. I don't like that error. I'm going to create a try-catch block. And let's say I want to do a try block. I want to type the word try, right? Take a look, try. And then I want to tab twice, like this. Take a look, guys. Shortcut. Oh, look at that. I got an exception of type error, right? And I got something that it's going to throw, which I don't care about. And I'm going to take all this stuff, except for wait for key, all this stuff. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to paste it inside my try catch block. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, right? Let me get rid of some of this white space for now. That to make it. Someone found it? Relative path? No? Oh well. I was hoping someone said yes because they found the way to relative pathing before I look it up. All right, so cool. So this is my file stream. I'm going to write out hello world, and you know, right now. And then if not, I'm going to say something like generic, like hey, here's another one. Look, console CW tab. Console.writeLine, right? Console.writeLine. Your code caused a darn error, right? The code caused a darn error. Oh, hey, too many of these. Okay, good. So something happens and the cause is spelled wrong because I'm just, you know, typing is not my thing today. Your code caused a darn error, and this is where we're not going to say what error it is, but if we wanted to, we could. And how do we do that? Remember how we do that? We go something like this. We say the next line, right, we say error, right? And then plus, we can do a plus, and error dot message, right? That's going to do that. Or we can actually use interpolation, which is probably the nicer way to do it, and use a comma. Same thing. All right. And then if we have an error, then it'll spit out. Like for example, if my path is wrong, I'm going to take one of these things away, like this, making the path unreadable. No, let's make it so that the path is wrong. Like it's not desktop, it's desk2. That's how bad this is to do, not to use. I'm changing the desktop to desk2, right? Is that a proper path? No. Let's see if we can error it out. Oh, your code caused a darn error. Could not find a part of the path, right? I made it happen, right? I made the error happen. And let's put that P back in there so now it's a proper path, which is weird, brothers and sisters. Let's try this again. And it works again because I'm writing the file out, no problem. Because my file access is right, and because I'm using a create, this is okay. But what if I use an open or some kind of other thing like this? It's assuming that, you know, if I use a file open, it's going to error out again, right? Because I'm not opening a file to write to it. I'm creating a file, or maybe a file append. What if we use append mode? Hey, that's another one. We go file mode, append. I like this one. So we're changing the file create to file append up here, and I'm doing it again. I'm opening it up in hello world. Let's see what we get now. Okay, cool. Let's see what a file looks like right now. So we're going to go into our text file. Oh, hey, I got another hello world because it appended to the file. It added on, right? Added on. But if we do a create again, go back and do a create again. So change this append to create, right? And we just do one of these, and we run it again, right? And that's good. We go back out, go to the test file. Hey, there's only one hello world. Why? When I use create, it wipes out the other file and puts my stuff in there, right? So create is destructive. Be careful. Append adds, right? It doesn't take care of everything else that was there before. Okay, cool. But we talked about this delimiter, right? We want to write several pieces of data. And, oops, we want to write several pieces of data. And what we want to do here when we write several pieces of data is have a series of write lines that goes to the file, right? And we want to separate them with a delimiter. So we can define the delimiter up here if we wanted to. And in this case, we're going to use a string delimiter. We'll just make the whole thing delimiter. Is that right? Maybe it is. It isn't. Except we'll make it so it's lowercase because it's a string, not a constant for now. And our delimiter is going to be a comma. And here's a question for you. Should I use double quotes or single quotes? Right? If I make it a string, let's go back to what it says here. The delimiter is also a string with double quotes. If I use single quotes, what does it become? Character, right? If I use single quotes, it becomes a character automatically, and it'll give me an error, right? It's not like JavaScript where you can interchange single quotes and double quotes. If I did one of these, right? So I go this, right? It'll give you an error, and it'll say, cannot implicitly convert type car or char to string. So you can't use single quotes. You got to use double quotes if you're going to make it a string. If I made this a char, right, then this would work, right? Wouldn't give me an error anymore. But it's not a char, a car, right? It's a string, which means we used to use double quotes. This is just a reminder for you guys when it comes to data typing. Data types, we have to use for a string, double quotes. Okay. Cool, cool. Now I want to add this delimiter after my file name. So I want to writer.writeLine hello world, and I want to add my delimiter, which is going to be, I'll add it with a plus my delimiter, right? Oh, not my delegate, my delimiter. There we go. Okay, so this is my new file with a comma at the end, right? That's all I'm doing with my delimiter. Let's run this thing and see if it works. Bam. Okay, let's go back to my file. Okay, hello world, right? Yes. The what? I like your thinking. Oh, you're impressive. Let's see if it's true, right? Which means that I want to do application.startup path for my path name. Is that what you're saying? Let's do this. So I'm going to go boop, boop, and I'm going to make a new string called path name. I don't know if it'll allow me to, but let's see. And I'll say application. I don't have application in here at all. Is it like capital? Do I need another kind of using statement? Because I'm missing something. You're close. Can't go application dot because it gives me application exception. Is there something else, some other using statement that I need up here for me to have access to application? Let's try that out. Let's go using system. We need this kind of stuff, guys. System dot, okay, let's look and see the system libraries, IO, reflection, threading, windows, code, collections, configuration, data, deployment, diagnostics, drawing, management, resources. Could it be this? Resources. Let's see if it's under my refor. Let's do another. No, that's got to be here. Let's see if it's resources. All right. Let's see if I can get my path name thing. And if I start typing application, no, application won't do it. So I need you to figure it out. It's enough. You're close. I need some other kind of using statement or something else because I'm not able to access the application path at all. Right? Not this way. But you're close. I like your thinking. So tell me how to do this. Or is there something else I put in front of application? Something that application that blah blah blah, right? Let's go back to our mad scientist stuff. Okay, so I got my hello world, and I got my delimiter, and you know what? I can keep on adding to this. If I was to do instead of a file mode.create, I do an append, right? Oops. If I do an append, so I added my delimiter in here, and now I'm doing an append instead of a create. I run it. Oh, build errors. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, what's going on? How come I made errors, mommy? Right? Where's the errors? Don't understand. Huh? Where? But, right. Where? Tell me where. Oh, append. Oh, I didn't use the enum. I just typed it in because I thought it was smart. Huh? Hold on. Let's run this again. I know I'm joking around, guys, but this is the kind of stupid errors we all get because we're quick. Typing errors. Okay, do it again. Hey, let's write this thing again. I'm going to append it again. Okay, how about again? Let's do it a couple more times. Let's write this thing. I want to see that hello world over and over again forever, right? All right, let's see. And let's go back to computer crashed. That's what happened. Let's go into test file. Hey, bunch of hello worlds, eh? Over and over and over again. That's what append does, right? It adds on to the file at the bottom. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, cool. So that's what we know, and that's what the delimiter does. The delimiter, right, is adding, the delimiter there. But what if we wanted to do, instead of a writer.writeLine, we did one of these, a writer.write, right? So I changed this from a writer. I'll change this back to create for a second with the proper name, right? And my writer.writeLine, I changed to a writer.write, and I put this into a for loop. Hey, watch this. What's the shortcut for the for loop? For tab tab. Oh, hey, it's really fast. These are shortcuts I'm showing you. You're missing them, right? And then instead of length, I want it to go 100 times, right? So I want to write 100. No, that's too long. Maybe 10. 10. And then I want to go do one of these and put this writer.write inside of here, right? And then under here, I'm going to make this a writer.writeLine by itself with nothing in it. Just end the file. Writer.writeLine. And let's run this thing. Boom. Okay, cool. Let's see what we got. Run it. Go back to test file. Poof. Got a bunch of these. Oh, man. It's bad, right? I got this like comma at the end. I can't have a comma at the end, right? What's going on with this? How can I, whoa, and look at this. I got like hello world, comma, and goes past this line, and then to here, and then it goes to new line, because there's a new line character in there too, right? But it actually puts in my last comma in there. I don't want that, right? We have to make some other code. This doesn't work. Because I want the comma to be added in except for the very last time. So we're going to add the delimiter on a separate line. If it's the last number, if I++, right? We'll see what the value of I is, and if I is the last number, right? So let's say if I is 10, right? If I is not equal to 10 or less than 10, write it. And if it's I, because I++ will increase I after you do it. It'll check the value and then increase after, right? So let's try this. So we say if, here's a statement, I is less than 10, right? Then what we want to do is, we want to do that writer.write with the delimiter, right? So let's take this whole line for a second, just because I'm lazy. I'll put this in there, take out, this. Oops. Remember, a write statement, is just like the write statement to the console. If we just write the delimiter, right, then it adds on to the last thing we wrote. So we wrote write, and if it's less than 10, it adds the delimiter. If it's greater than 10 or equal to 10, it won't write this. So hopefully we won't have the list as the last one. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, cool. Let's go back. Launch this thing here, and oh man, we still got this thing, right? Well, let's see if we do this in less than, if it's less than 9. How about that? How about them apples? Right? Because if it's that way, we'll only write 9 statements. Well, this is kind of hard-coded numbers. We will change this later on, but for now, this would be like I minus 1, right? Or whatever it would be. Let's just leave it alone for now. And write this thing and see what happens. See if I get the result I want. Ba-bum. Okay, testing. Ah, hey, now I don't have that comma at the end. That silly comma. And I got my new file. This is quite long. I noticed that one line of code is 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit, right? Not quite in this text format here. If I do 4, and I go to the next line, that would be good, right? For our format, right? Doesn't really mean anything, by the way. But let's just say we'll use 4 of these loops, and then go to the next one instead of 10, because 10 is too many. Okay, cool. Blah blah blah. Go over here like this, and let us do 0 to 4, which means this has to be less than 3. I don't know if you guys are getting what I'm trying to do here. Did you figure it out, Tim? Hey, form. Oh, we don't have no forms. We have no stinking forms. Let me take a look at this. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go back in here. Hey, this is it. I only want to come to here, and it goes to the next line. That's good, because that little character is the next line. I've done that. What if we do this? What if I have this open like this, right? And then I do this, run my program. Will it cause an error? Let's see. Nope. And what happens here? Well, nothing, because it was open and nothing changed. But what if I go to, I don't know why it's doing that. What if I go to here, and what if I change this thing to append again, and I have it open? Will that cause an error? I want to try an error out. Run it. Oh, didn't do anything. Did it actually update my file? Nope. Why? I have to what? Yeah, but it is open. I got my file open over here. Right? Do I? No, not really. I don't have my file open. My file, even though I've got it open here, I can see my WordPad. I can see this thing, right? I've got a copy of the file inside memory. I don't keep a file open. This is the new file now, right? But when I open this thing up, when I double click and open up WordPad as an example, this program copies the file into memory, but doesn't keep the file open, right? Make sense? Okay, so let's put this back to create. Have we fooled enough around with this one? Let's go back to what Tim said. So Tim said window, right? Window.form and using, oh wait, I got an extra period there. Using system.windows, right? And I want to do the path name. So let's just comment this puppy out for a second and go back to path name. Path name is equal to application. Oh man, I don't get nothing. Do you mean Windows application? That doesn't work. Window dot? No. Well, I don't understand. I don't get a form, right? Form exception. I got a format. And I don't have access to an application, so even though I put Windows in there, it doesn't really do anything. So that doesn't really do it for me either. How about a file? Like if I do something like this, like some kind of, if I could file something. Is there something with a file in front of it? Because I know I can do file something, access, mode, load exception. I don't think there's a path. Is there I don't know if there's a path. Hey, path, capital path. There's a system.out.path. Oh, and if I go path, and what would you say? What did you say that thing is? Windows dot application dot. Your internet cut out. Get file name. Hit path root. Startup path. Right? And people know that I'm working, but they call anyway as extension. Get temp file name is path rooted. Path separator. Yeah. Get directory name. Get file name. Get full path. I'm killing myself. Get full path. Get invalid path. Get path root. Hey, how about get path root? Right? Get path root, temporary path, path root. Let's get path root, hey? Let's call this a different thing though. So we'll say, let's see what this is. I'm playing now with you guys, you know that, right? So I'm gonna kind of kill this thing, and I'll call this, I'll uncomment this thing, and we'll go string path root. I'll make a new variable. We'll say path.getPathRoot. And probably need to do one of these, I'm guessing, with the string path. Path name. All right. passing in a path name. And you know what? I want to write this out at the top over here. Let's see if I can do that here. Console outside of the block. Right line, and then we'll do path route. Exploring the API. Okay. And we'll run it. C:\\. That's the path route. So that doesn't tell us much, but we're on our way to something neat. What do you mean? Get full path. This one? Get full path. Okay, get full path works. Okay, okay, full path. Path name. Let's get full path. That does our full path to the path name that we give it. C:\Tom whatever. Right, that's cool. Where? Where? This? Oh, instead of this, you mean, instead of putting a path name in there, does it take a 0, something like this? Can you do this? Dot long? No. How about path? Local path, you mean, instead of path get full path, dot get local path? Local. No. Is it a get local? No. You mean, where would I put the local path? I mean, get path name, get full path, and then I put in there path name, oh, path route, path name. And where do I put the local path? Here? Is it a get local path? I don't see no local path. It's local, brother. Yeah. Again, I want you to know these things because this is going to cause a problem for you, okay? And you're going to like be upset. You're going to like, Tom, I don't know how to read a path, and it's a problem. What if you send me an assignment and I load it up and you've got C:\users and whatever your name is, right? Fill in the name in there, dot whatever, and I can't read it. That's bad, right? I'm not going to modify every single one of your assignments to make it work for me. That would be terrible. It's horrible, right? So we have to figure this out. So this obviously is not the solution. And Windows, this little piece here, I don't think we need this one right now. And we're not going to do this console.write. So we still got this mystery. How do we read and write from our local pathing, right? Well, for now, what we're going to do, closing off my chat for whatever reason it's open, right? What we're going to do is we're going to pause this, take a brief break, come back and do the next piece.